picking it up in part two of this first lesson about how the causes and effects of World War One shaped the 20th century. We're going to pick it up on where it's going to lead into a future lesson. So, the Russian Revolution, also known as the Bolshevik Revolution, is going to lead to Russia dropping out of World War One. So, when I talked about this in the American history lesson, I said this is kind of a big deal, and I'll talk about it in world history. So, here we go. Why did they drop out? Is because the monarchy in Russia, Tsar Nicholas II, was not doing things to take over or take care of the people. People were hungry, people were poor, and they were desperate. And all the while, this guy, Vladimir Lenin, is going to be coming in and preaching about how the land belongs to the people and how people deserve bread and, kind of saying all the right things, I guess you would say. And he's going to basically rise to power very quickly. All the while, Tsar Nicholas II and his family, the Romanovs, are going to be executed. This whole revolution has its own lesson in due time later in this lesson, but for our most part, World War One was taking a large amount of supplies from the citizens, and that's why they dropped out after the government was overthrown. That's really kind of all you need to know about this. But it's kind of important because when they were dropping out is when the United States was working its way in by basically they were being told to. So what was happening is that the Germans and their submarines were going around and they're sinking a bunch of boats left and right because they thought they were carrying military aid from the United States to countries in Europe. And they were right. And there was one country in particular, the Lusitania, which was a British boat that was carrying American supplies and some American civilians. And when this boat sank, it really kind of flipped up our ears of, okay, now we're getting angry. But what's going to drive us to the point of declaring war is this thing called the Zimmerman Note. And it's going to be this guy, Arthur Zimmerman, sending a note to Mexico saying, hey, form an alliance with us. We can use the entry point into the United States, North America, through your borders. And when we win the war, you're going to get all these lost states back to your country. Well, Mexico didn't take the deal. And this drove us to the point of, all right, we're officially declaring war, we're getting in. So when we got involved, it was actually a welcome sight for the good guys of this war, I guess you would say, because we had a lot of supplies and so on and so forth. So the World War One events from there on out, not a big deal, but the ending of it is the big deal. So we're going to fast forward to 11/11 of 1918, and at the 11th hour, all the guns of World War One went silent. And this is what's now known as Veterans Day, but it was once called Armistice Day. So when the dust is settled, you're going to notice that on the good side, our side, there was about 5 million soldiers that died. And then on the other side, the German side, is going to be 8 million soldiers. That's a lot. But the poor thing right here is the civilians, average people who this war is basically happening in their backyard. That's going to be the biggest deal. So that's what's going to inspire future actions, diplomacy. But question number one, Armistice Day of World War One became known as what U.S. holiday? So, as I said before, diplomacy is really going to kick up after World War One. The United States is going to flex its muscle, I guess you would say, in the world stage, and it's all going to be the brainchild of this dude. So, this is Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States. He is going to say, "We need forever peace," and he has a 14-point plan on how to do so. And again, if we had more time, I would probably go a little bit more in depth with them, but here are the major gists of it. Okay, he promoted openness or open diplomacy, meaning let's not be in secret. If United States needs to talk to Germany about how they're doing bad things, we're going to do it. He also encouraged all countries to get rid of their colonial ties, meaning all that imperialism stuff that we talked about last lesson or last unit, excuse me, needs to go away. People need to be able to govern themselves. Next, supporting the freedoms. Kaiser goes along right with that. And then he wanted nations to pick their own governments. He did not want people inside of the country to be oppressed, which causes revolutions, future wars that we might get involved with. But then the biggest thing, and the thing that he was willing to die on the hill with, is this thing called the League of Nations, was an intergovernmental organization to maintain peace, or a government for the world's governments, a representative from every country of the world going and talking things out. Again, diplomacy. So this was a wild idea, but unfortunately, the United States did not join it. The League of Nations happened, but we did not join it. And we talked about it in American history. But when World War One is done and the Treaty of Versailles is signed, you're going to notice that governments are going to start breaking up, countries are going to start breaking up. So what was once before the map of Europe, pre-World War One, here it is now and after World War One. Notice new countries are going to be formed, old countries are going to be split. And this is what's really going to screw with some people's national identity. So notice how Germany lost some land. This country, Poland, is now going to be a thing. So why this matters is because this is what's going to start World War II. People are going to be angry, aka Hitler. And then since Italy didn't really gain a whole lot after World War II, World War One, they are going to be angry as well. So, where this officially hits the fan and really makes Hitler over the top mad because of the outcome of World War One is how much blame Germany took. He is going to be irate because Germany had to pay everybody back and they had to basically admit all guilt. And when all this is done, he's going to be angry. He's going to go about 20-ish years. He's going to reunite the people of Germany during the Great Depression when times were really bad. And then that's when he's going to start World War II. I'll talk about it more with lesson 2 coming up. But in terms of the 14-point plan, people did not like it. However, Wilson, like I said, was really pushing for the League of Nations, and he got it into the treaty. So when it was signed, that's what started the League of Nations to be existent, to go into effect or be in existence. So, question for you: true or false? All parties were happy with how World War One ended.